Hey guys, Paul here, and this is another video update for Void Destroyer 2. It's been quite a while since I did a video update. Of course, that doesn't mean that development stopped or there wasn't any updates. Updates just happen continually, and then when there's like a bunch of big updates or something I'm particularly excited about, I do a video update. But in this case, I'm trying to work towards. Um, Ever more development of the base ownership mechanic. And it's a bit funny because it's sort of like I want to get to step 10, um, which is like, really well implemented base ownership and capturing and back and forth type of interaction between the player, the game world, capturing bases, the AI fighting back, defending itself, the economy working, how you would expect, there being a purpose to owning bases and things like that. That's step 10 or step 100, whatever. And now I'm at step maybe 5 or something. And it's a bit funny sort of working on it, kind of having this long-term goal and kind of saying, I want this, and this. But then I'm saying, well, before that, I need this, I need this, I need this, and even before that, I need that to get to the thing I need for the other thing that I need. So basically, it's kind of like it's a pretty, like I said before, as far as base ownership, it's going to be a really really big part of the game, and a lot of little components involved to it. So getting to the final product is taking a while, all the while we're improving the game. So yeah, I decided instead of like waiting forever to do a video update and having it be like super super long, I decided to just do a sort of a update now, a video update right now, and just talk about a few of the smaller elements that are really really important on our way towards where we want to get to. All right, so what I'm going to talk about is this new type of a faction, this sort of a indie faction. Right there. So this blue ship spawned. If we go to object details, this is a faction type indie, faction type indie. So at first glance, this might look just like a civilian faction, and it basically pretty much is the civilian faction, except that having a separate indie faction means that you can go to war with the civilians and not be at war with the indies. So what does that actually do? How does that help you? Well, when you own a base, you want some trade to happen. To generate money, you want to either sell resources to the indies, or you want to buy resources from somebody to have resources for other money generating and down the line shipbuilding aspects. So if you're at war with everybody, which is kind of what might happen if you capture an indie base, military's not going to like you, bounty hunters aren't going to like you, civilians aren't going to like you. So this sort of separate indie faction from this already existing civilian faction is a bit necessary. So what makes these guys unique is that they're sort of kind of like you. So here, for example, we have the same indie faction, but their ships are the rock ships here. So these guys don't really care about faction lines. So all kinds of variety of ships is what they'll have, both civilian and rock guys, and hopefully maybe some other factions if we can get new factions in. So here we have a transport ship, and it's the MU transport ship. It might have a mix of escorts of civilian and rock guy ships as the same faction. So it's kind of this bit of variety, which I think is pretty cool. And kind of like hammering home that these guys are not really aligned with anybody. They're kind of like you, where they buy whatever ship they can afford or is best. So yeah, even if you were at war with the civilians, these guys will continue to trade with you, unless of course you attack them, you fight them. Um, then they won't like you either. But the other unique thing is, if you do attack these guys, um, over time their relationship score will improve with you, without you actually doing anything. So even if you hunt them down, given enough time, if you stop killing them, they'll become neutral and friendly to you, and they'll trade with you again. So they have sort of this sort of memory, you know, where if I kill this particular person, somebody down the line doesn't really care. I don't have to actively increase the faction score. In fact, I don't think you can increase it. Uh, you can only sort of like wait or not hurt it in a way. So um, in a way, they're just this mass of independence conglomerate of sort of people with their individual agenda. They don't really care what happens to this base as long as they can know they can safely trade with it. So that's the indie faction. I think it's a really interesting sort of aspect and kind of adds to the game world because these guys will also spawn from pirate bases, and of course when they do, pirates won't go after them. They're sort of like smugglers or traders with pirates, so it just kind of adds that sort of element to it. So that took a while, and glad I got that in because now you can fight with the civilians, fight with the military, but still have trade going. Okay, so now we're at a owned base. This is our base. So now the space management button works. And if you look, there's these. This interface has been worked on a bunch from the previous updates. In the economy interface, right here, we now have this supply and request buttons. So what we can do, we can check requests, and when we do this, our other bases will send resources to this base. We can also click supply, and that means that this base will send resources to another base that has a request. So if we look, this button here has also been added. This multiple bases. This allows you to have a list of your bases, and you can also manage them remotely. So you don't have to fly to each base, do the supply request, and then fly to another base, do the supply request. You can just do it from one screen. So this is a mining base that I currently own. These blades will extract resources from this giant asteroid. So I'm managing this base, and I'm going to say, hey, you supply ore. This base produces ore at a rate of 1,000 units per second. So this base is going to be a supplier. And now I'm going to go to this civilian outpost, the base we were originally in. Click on the economy, and we're going to say that this base requests ore. So now what's going to happen is that in the faction we just talked about, is going to send out a transport ship with ore that we own from this mining base to this civilian base. And of course, it'll only do that if we're not hostile with that faction. So it doesn't pay to be just like a totally ruthless dictator and murderous, especially if you want a sort of an economy. If you don't care about the economy, you can be as crazy chaotic as you want. But if you do want some traffic and resource management time gameplay, then certainly don't be a ruthless killing machine. Just double checking that this is all set up. Supply ore, and this one request. Okay, it's got 8,000 units currently. Let's jump into space and see the result. Alrighty, we're in space, and I currently have a kitty right in front of the screen, so I can't see anything. There we go. Move our little guy over. We're in space. We're heading to this mining base. And let's see if it spawns our indie transport ship. Might actually be already on the way, but we'll see. We'll see in a second. Alright, we see a transporter there, but it's not heading over there, so it looks like it just quite didn't spawn yet. So we're just gonna wait a little bit for it to spawn. I'll probably cut some of this weight out so you guys don't have to wait with me. Alrighty, so I believe I see our transport ship. The way I can easily tell is that I see that this ore pod is a different color than this transport ship. That's because I own this ore pod. The civilian faction owns this ore pod. The Indie faction is a transporter, but this ore pod is mine. Just like the color of this base, one way you can easily tell. And this Indie ship is going to transport this ore pod to that other base. And I'm going to have more ore in that base. And that's us working towards the goal of using ore for ship production. Although you could just use ore as far as money generating. You could have you could be selling ore or consuming ore in some of the bases. But in this case, the major goal is to be able to use ore to produce ships. And what's the goal of producing ships with ore? It's to cut down severely on the price of ships. So, for example, a Corvette might be 1,000,000 credits to build. With the necessary ore, the Corvette might be, let's say, 100,000 credits to produce. So like a severe reduction, maybe 90%, 80%. I'll have to see exactly what happens, but it'll be a really, really big boost. So you'll want to have a sort of an economy set up, unless you're just filthy rich. uh, but knowing players tend to want to like minimize, maximize gameplay. So they'll probably try to do a little bit of this sort of resource management, I hope. Especially if I set up the game properly where there's enemies enough to hurt the player to the point where it's just better versus spending money to buy a ship, spending 1,000,000 credits to spend maybe 2,000 units of ore and 100,000 credits or something like that. But we'll see what the exact balance is. But you can kind of see the bigger point of the indie faction. If I didn't have this indie faction, then this transporter wouldn't have spawned, and if you were hostile to this indie faction, then this transporter wouldn't have spawned either. So this sort of additional separate life to the game has this important component. And the ship is going to dock, and my base is going to have about 1,000 more units of ore. Also, if you can see, there's other transporters, indie transporters going to my base, and I'm just going to talk about that in just a second. Let's see if I have a bug here. Let's make sure this guy arrives, and we have more ore. Yep, we have 9,000 units of ore. All right, so I'm going to let's see, I'm going to dock. And because this is my base, I can just auto dock. There we go. I can just auto dock. Let's take a look at our base management screen again. Yeah, so these other buttons here, for example, I could buy, click this buy button. And not only am I going to get ore via my bases, but also I'll get ore via buying them from transport ships. Seeing here. Now, if this base was producing anything, and I can actually do that via building platforms. So I built 2 energy producing platforms. My energy production is plus 1,000 per minute. I could say sell. I could sell these, and I could generate credits via that. So the indie faction is kind of important for these kind of things. And now that we have these buy and sell for ships outside of your faction and supply requests, and now that we can manage these bases remotely, you can set up these sorts of resource loops, resource chains, where this mining base is going to supply ore to like a forward base, and that base might be focused on defense and building ships, things like that, you know. Whereas this base might be more secure, so it could be good as a supplier. and another base might be less secure, so it might be more of a requester. Yeah, I think these already existed before, but you can say auto manage to these and to build automatically build ships and defense platforms. Here's a list of the platforms. Did I show this before? I probably didn't, but like you saw, um, you can actually build stations now, defense platforms, or this base will auto build them if it has enough money. Once we put building via resources, it'll be either money or resources. These are built right now. These are built just like instantaneously, but in the future we'll change that, and we'll just give it a little bit of a countdown timer, things like that, make it a little more balanced, things like that. So now I have 4 defense platforms, and if I undock, I can see them right there. So this base is pretty well defended, and I can see those energy producing platforms right there. So yeah, that was a pretty nice deal that I put in on our way towards using resources and creating more of an economy. I'm happy about that, but again, it's sort of the step 5 out of 100 towards getting base ownership implemented, and it is early. There are a bunch of limitations. There's things that are not really well implemented and things like that, but that's the path we're heading on. Let's go ahead and dock again. Alrighty, so here we have a mining ship. It's going to be doing some mining. There it is. 3% full, 5%, etc., etc. So this mining ship is mining this asteroid field. Here's our own base right there. Now, if it's our base or somebody else's base, it doesn't really matter at this time. What we're trying to do is we're trying to generate ore either to sell or to add to our stock if it's our base. And this mining ship is doing just that. So it's almost done, and when it's full, it's going to go back to the base and it's going to drop off this cargo pod. But because we want to make this a little bit better, what we're going to do is we're going to take this transport ship, we're going to assign it to this mining ship. There it is. And what this means is this transport ship is going to pick up this cargo pod from this mining ship, and that transport ship is going to actually ferry it back to the base. So what that means is this mining ship can then go ahead and keep mining, thereby increasing your efficiency. There it goes. Grab the cargo pod. It's going to ferry it to our base. This mining ship is going to start mining again, and basically it'll kind of create this sort of a chain. So depending how many you have assigned, depending which ship is doing the mining, which ship is doing the ferrying, things like that, you can create a little business, more efficient business, or like a pretty large scale mining operation. If this was one of the heavier miners, the ones with the 4 cargo pod capacity, if this was a heavier transport ship, things like that, you could really set up a really cool type of a production type chain. The ship is going back for another pod, and actually let's see what's going on with this ship. What I want to do, if I can, want to capture the handoff, but I might not make it. I think I did make it. Alright. So let's see. There's the mining ship. Nope. There's the transport ship. There's the mining ship. Didn't quite finish yet, so we're going to see the handoff. Let's see how much you have mining for ore. Let's do a mouse over on this pod. There it is. Drop the pod off. And our other transport ship, let's go to tactical mode so we can see better. other transport ship's going to pick up this pod and it's going to ferry it back. So I think this is a bit, kind of a cool thing. It kind of creates this sort of this little more interesting economy with having producers, miners, and ships that are going to ferry these back. Okay, looks like this guy decided to pick this pod up. This ship was actually fast enough to to create all these pods. Huh? I'll have to look at that. It looks like it might be a bit of a bug there. But now this ship will ferry it back while this guy continues mining. There it goes. So we'll go back to base. So in this way, you can create these cool loops, these chains. These bases can have a good amount of ore, and in the future you'll be able to use that ore to build ships at a big discount, build defensive platforms and things like that. So once there's a higher reason for that, once there's a giant enemy, once there's sort of a back and forth fighting of if you capture this from civilians, they might retaliate. If you capture this from military, they will definitely retaliate, that kind of thing. You'll need resources to both attack other bases and defend yourself. Yeah, another thing let's look at. Now, if you're investing more funds in mining, if you're investing mining ships, it only makes sense that you have some way to protect this field and your mining ships. So while you could assign ships to escort another ship, like I just did with these two guys, you now can assign ships to patrol a field. So I'm going to say, hey, patrol this field, and now I have about four gunships with rail guns patrolling this field. So your mining ships are a lot safer mining at this field. This field is pretty low yield. It's only 1.25. But still, some ore is better than no ore. What's actually going to happen is these ships will kill any hostile ships, hostile to you. So if you're hostile to pirates, they'll kill pirates. If you're hostile to the military, they'll kill military. If you're hostile to civilians, they'll kill civilians. But if you're not hostile and to civilians and Indies, and they do their mining, like this ship is doing right here, it's at 50%. You're actually going to get a bit of a profit from their mining, as it's sort of a thanks for keeping this field safe. It's at 80%, 90%, and there it is. We got 1,200 credits. So not quite a lot, but here comes in some enemies, and our ships are going to deal with them. Keep the field safe. Another change is now when your ships destroy a ship that pays bounty, you're going to get that bounty too. Before, this wasn't the case. It was just something that I haven't gotten to. But you're going to get 11 or whatever the amount for the bounty. So not only will your ships get paid for patrolling this field, but they'll also get paid for killing pirates, if that's something you would normally get paid for in your ship. So sooner or later these ships will be damaged or destroyed, costing you credits. But having this sort of a thing giving you credits will make this feasible, where you might actually make profit on this. And of course later we'll add like repair ships to this and things like that. So yeah, so we're working towards this goal of making bases worthwhile, bases interesting, making the game world more dynamic. So we added that indie faction to sort of separate civilians from the Indies, meaning you can go to war against the civilians and still have a sort of a trading faction. We added the supply request type mechanic and buy sell type mechanic for own bases, where the Indies will ferry the goods back and forth, and in the future we'll probably have player transport ships do the same. We've kind of increased the efficiency of mining by having transport ships pick up cargo pods. We've also made it safer via assigning patrol ships to them, and then giving you some more money for protecting a field as well as getting bounties. So we're on our way. We're getting there, getting closer every day to a more and more sort of game um, that has you start from just one little ship, then get a bigger ship, then get a fleet, then be big enough to capture a base, or even before that, have a mining operation to get funds to get those ships, then to be big enough to get a base, and then to establish an economy to fight off a gigantic foe, which will be added in the future. So yeah, we're on our way. All these little steps, step by step. Um, what I'm going to work on next is kind of improve this a little bit, and hopefully add in the ability to build ships via resources, decreasing their cost, and then work on the AI responding to their bases being captured by retaliating, and then that making the player a lot more incentivized to have defense fleets, defense platforms, and things like that. And then we'll go from there ever and ever towards the future. All right, guys. Thank you for supporting the project. Thank you for your interest. Thanks for watching this video. Hopefully, we'll have a less of a gap between the next video and this one. I think the last one was actually in January, so like a month and a half, or 2 months or something went on. Whereas usually I try to have like 2 weeks. I don't know if I'll be able to do 2 weeks from now, but because these features are kind of larger, but I'll definitely try it. Again, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you later.